On this episode of On the Cusp, Dr. Rinesh Ganatra joins us and drops wisdom. He talks about dreaming big. He tells us about the pillars we need to know about marketing, technology. He talks about entrepreneurship and vision and impact. He gives incredible advice. He inspires, he educates, and he's just an incredible person. So drop on in with us. You won't want to miss this episode. Dentist, let's talk innovation. Colteen is dedicated to advancing patient care with a comprehensive product line that covers it all: restorative, preventive, endo, and small equipment like ultrasonics, scalers, and curing lights. Trusted by dental professionals worldwide, Colteen products are known for their quality, durability, and research-driven design. We're here to help you optimize patient outcomes with tools that deliver unmatched precision and reliability. Elevate your practice with Colteen, where innovation meets excellence. Learn more at Colteen.com. Dental professionals, are you ready to transform your workflow? Meet Sycan, your partner in cutting-edge sterilization technology. From the speed of Statim and StatClave to the precision of Hydrum, Bravo, and the power of Optum wipes, Sycan makes sterilization safe, efficient, and effective. With a focus on SPEC, that's safe, predictable, efficient, compliant, Sycan delivers innovative tools designed to help you provide better patient care with confidence. Trust Sycan to streamline your practice and make every step easier. Discover the future of dental sterilization at Sycan.com today. Welcome back to On the Cusp. I'm your host, Dr. Brett Gilbert, and I'm back with another incredible guest. Actually, this is episode number 2 for my dear friend and brother, Dr. Rinesh Ganatra. I describe him in so many ways because he does so many things. He's an entrepreneur, a coach, he's an educator, he's a mentor. He's certainly a marketing and tech guru, my opinion, guru. He's an author. He's a husband, a father, a son, a brother, a friend. And at the end of that list, did I mention he's also a dentist? So I want to welcome Dr. Rinesh Ganatra back to On the Cusp for episode number 2.
Man, Brett, that's awesome, man. When you say all those things, like, oh, you're all these things, it's just a reminder of like, gosh, we wear so many hats. So it's always good to be reminded of all the things you get to do. And thank you for the good words. I really appreciate that. You know, I love jamming with you because you always have like these great perspectives and you bring not just dentistry to your conversations, but like life experience, different perspectives that open up, you know, how to see things in life, how to like be more and how to be more in tune with yourself and minding your wellness and your mental health. So I love your approach on that. And I think it's so valuable, especially in our day today where people are just scattered there. So, man, I'm pumped. I love that last one, what we did together. Hopefully people caught that. And I think your podcast has really caught on as well. So congrats on that as well.
Thank you. No, the first episode was absolute fire, and excited to capture more of that in round 2 because, you know, the reality is that Rinesh and I know each other so well. We're partners together in the Access Endo project and mentorship program. We'll have show notes linked up on the bottom here for that. But I just wanted to bring you back, Rinesh, because the first episode, you went into so many incredible avenues and talking about technology in the future. And so looking at us sort of embarking upon a new year, looking at kind of what are the most important things that dentists, clinicians should sort of just be aware of, be thinking about, because I know that as we enter into a new calendar year, there is some power in that, right? There's an energetic shift into something new, a new beginning, and an opportunity for all of us to make advancement and to kind of get to where we want to go on our journey. And I knew that you'd be able to bring some incredible insight. So first and foremost, though, Rinesh, as we're starting this session, can you tell us a little bit of what you're feeling grateful for today?
Man, I'm grateful that I get to be here. I mean, I know it sounds cheesy, but gosh, I honestly feel like these are the best days of our lives. You know, we always are looking forward and we're thinking, oh, when I get there or I achieve this, or I want to get to this place in my career or in my life, or when I'm able to do these things, man, I've just very simply boiled it down to like, God, the best days are happening now. And honestly, for me, that's been such a liberating thing. So stop chasing after the next week or the next achievement or the next place to be. Just like dude, like great stuff is here now. Like bring the energy into the day, into the present. So I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be able to do the work I get to do with Dental Practice Mastery and our mentors on the platform like yourself and Dr. Marvin Berlin, Andrea Smith, Mark Olson, Aziz Simon, and just, gosh, it's Dr. John Cranham now. And, so it's amazing. I get to be surrounded by so many great mentors that not only help me, but now we can pay it forward and helping our community. So there's so many things we can go on, but in a nutshell, it's this right now, Brett. I love this stuff.
Beautiful. Love it. Being grateful for presence is about the
Yeah,
greatest gift you have. And, for those that haven't necessarily listened to the other episode, which we strongly encourage you to do, backstory Rinesh, practicing dentist, had 3 offices, built it up, was doing great, but had a calling, got a bug for marketing, loved the concept of educating, mentoring online, and really jumped into the game before anyone else was really focused on it, and has built this incredible entity, Dental Practice Mastery, which I'm very grateful to be a part of, as he mentioned, as part of a very esteemed faculty, doing direct mentorship. So, but with that extra time away from the dental chair, Rinesh has been able to really take deep dives into pretty much all the areas that interest him. And that's where I want to focus today, because ultimately I'm looking at what are the top 5 areas that we as clinicians should be aware of, looking into, thinking about for 2025. And so Dr. Rinesh Ganatra is just the perfect person to highlight this, because I know of his innate knowledge on so much of this. So Rinesh, let's just jump in. We're preparing for a big year ahead, a year of growth, a year of expansion, a year of finding our own fulfillment, right? That's the purpose of this podcast, is success no longer measured by the metric of money, but often measured by the metric of how you feel each day when you wake up.
100%.
And, like you were saying, feeling so grateful for what you get to do every day. And we know as clinicians, there are so many burdens. It sometimes is so challenging. It can weigh you down at times. And so I feel like when we can diversify our thought, when we can start to make inroads into other areas, we sort of dispel a lot of the tension and anxiety with our profession, because we're focused on other things. So let's dive in. I wanted to start with the first topic being sort of overall, us as human beings being on this earth, how do we best take care of ourselves? What's out there, what's coming? And I know you're a perfect person to go for it. So Rinesh, the floor is yours. Talk to us about what we can look for as humans being on this earth in 2025.
Yeah, I want to reference what we did that first podcast, and I loved it. And it was, our journeys, your journey, my journey. But with this one, as we're getting into this discourse, it's not about who you are or who I am or what we did. I really feel like it's more so about what's happening and what's coming. And that's what lights me up. So, you said 2025, but gosh, I think the question for me as I was thinking about the coming months was, gosh, dream bigger. Dream bigger. Whatever happened to that? Like, whatever happened to those days where we felt alive again to dream bigger? Like we get so focused in and so locked into, all the responsibilities of our life that we forget to think of the possibilities of our life. And I always think of possibility over responsibility, because yeah, things are coming at you. You got work, you got patients, you got bills to pay, you got, you want to hang out with your family, your kids, and you want to do this. And there's so many obligations. And what I've found, and I'm not, excluded from this. This is why I'm actually talking about it, is because I'm like, man, when did we stop dreaming bigger again? Not just dreaming, but dreaming bigger. And that to me is a huge lean in to the next year, which is I want to dream bigger. And I don't want to do that with limitation or hesitation. And that's what's going to happen. As soon as you start thinking about that, your mind's going to be like, but wait, how am I going to do that? Or who do I need to make that happen? Or how is that situation even feasible considering my current frustration? And that's where put that stuff aside and really project this idea of dreaming bigger again. writing that stuff down. But here's what I'm going to challenge you to do, and which I'm doing this month as well, which is I'm putting it all down in a calendar. And there's many calendars out there, but I like Google Calendar because I can stick it all in there. And many clinicians, they have their practice management software, and they can see all their patients coming through every week, but they don't know what their life calendar looks like. And I'm like, man, when did that patient calendar substitute for our life calendar? So if there's one thing you do this year, this coming month, or whenever you're watching this, like, put together a calendar for your life. We call it lifestyle design. Design your life's style. Like, how do you want to live? And for that to happen, you got to dream bigger. And you got to say, fine, I took a week off last year during the summer, or I took 2 weeks off during this time. And it's just such a wild idea for me to take the month off. Or I'm going to actually dedicate every morning to my health routine or to my fitness. Or I'm going to make sure I take, every month I take a few days away and just spend time with the family. And even if that sounds so foreign to you and so much of it's like, this is a pipe dream, this is never going to happen, put it in the calendar. Because I truly believe that the world meets you at your standards. Set the standard. Set the temperature gauge. Set the barometer. You walk into the room and you put it on 71. You go to bed at night, maybe it's on 72. But you set the temperature gauge. But I find that so many of us don't set the gauge or the temperature or the expectation for our life. Sometimes expectations have turned into kind of like a bad word. Oh, why are you expecting that? We've all heard, trade your expectations for appreciation. I get that. I'm all about it. But I also feel like God gives us this ability to anticipate and to expect. And that also draws things into our life. If you can expect better and you can anticipate more and you can actually dream bigger again, man, that lights you up. And I feel like we're in a time right now where people are forgetting that. And they're just so drowned down by the, pessimism, the politics, what's happening in the world, all the disturbances around you, the bills to pay. Just take some quiet time, dream big, open up Google Calendar, plan out your year, plan out your next 6 months, make lifestyle design a theme in your life. Design your life on your style. What do you want? To me, that's a big thing moving ahead. And I usually do that like a month before. Like if you're leaning into the year like we are in 2025, I'll do it this month, December. I'm like prepping for next year a month before. And I'm just writing things down and I'm putting it in the calendar and I'm layering in, okay, these are my events. This is what I want to do. This is what work stuff is. And I want to bend the world to my desires, what I want. And it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes it does, right? There's God's plans. And sometimes we're happy when God's plans match our plans. And that's great. But sometimes when God's plans don't match your plans, it's a blessing in disguise as well. So you got to have that perspective. But I want everybody to dream bigger because I don't think people are doing that anymore. They're just so inundated with all the minutia and all the frustrations and all the obligation. Start dreaming bigger. That'll light you up. And I can guarantee you this, Brett, anything that's great in your life first came about because you started to dream about it. You started to think, man, what if? I don't know if that's possible, but heck, what do I have to lose? I'm going to try. I'm going to take a month off. I'm going to take 2 weeks off. I'm going to go to that vacation. I'm actually going to plan 4 trips next year, not 1. Whatever it is for you, everybody has their different idea of their lifestyle. But I think that's number 1 for me coming in through next year is just dream bigger.
Love it. Love it. And I think through the dreams, because, those dreams become vision, and vision is sort of the blueprint. And you're a perfect person for that because you had this vision of dental practice mastery. And if you hadn't dreamed big, you would never have created it. And so I think you're a great inspiration and mentor for this. And I know you do a lot of coaching and masterminds. And as you can see, just from listening, I'm fired up. I'm dreaming big all the time, but listening to you makes me want to dream even bigger. So, but
And Brett, we have to continue to do this,
of
right? Like,
course.
it's not like, like all the stuff that you've achieved in your practice with your patients, with your family, and even your lifestyle. And I see you leaning into doing things that you really want to do. Like, you're constantly up leveling that experience, because I do feel like, it's fulfillment over comfort,
Yeah.
right? We
Yeah.
all say, be comfortable, but don't get comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
That's key. Be comfortable, don't get comfortable. You have to have a certain platform of comfort. But if you want to be fulfilled in your life, fulfillment over comfort, then you got to focus on progress.
Yep.
Because progress equals happiness, right? In any area of your life, not just monetary, but progress is like, man, I'm getting better. I'm refining it. I'm at the borders of my best. I'm evolving. So fulfillment over comfort. And that requires you to move outside of a little bit of that comfort zone so you can lean into what fulfills you. And part of that's
Absolutely.
dreaming bigger and starting there.
I love that. And in order to fulfill that, you also have to be of healthy mind, body, and spirit. Now, I know I see you on Instagram doing your boxing, doing your lifting. I know you eat very healthy and you have a lot of, make posts about some of the issues with, the food chain and medicine, et cetera. So, Rinesh, what is on your mind in terms of that area, like taking care of ourselves, taking care of our bodies? What do you think is something we should be aware of?
Brett, when I don't feel like working out, or I feel like, oh man, I don't feel like going to the gym today, or whether it's boxing or lifting weights, I just pause and I ask myself one question, and it's always the same question. And if you feel like you're hesitating on just more wellness in your life, or getting more fit, or exercising, ask yourself this question: what's more important? And then you'll realize the answer is always the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing. Nothing
There.
is more important. Nothing's more important than your health. We've all heard that saying. A healthy person has 1,000 dreams. A sick person has just one.
Yeah.
So I honestly, I try to live by that, because health is wealth in all its forms, right? Try to go to your kid's soccer game, or be at the piano recital, or be at acting class, or be with your family, and you're not feeling well. Looking through that lens is different than looking through the lens of health. So take time. For me, it's in the morning. If it doesn't happen in the morning, it doesn't happen. That's just, I
Same
know
here.
that's how I am. I know you
Same
too.
here.
So it's usually resistance training 3 times a week. And then I like to do boxing. We like get on and we box, and we're not trying to hit each other, but it's just an art form. And it's just, hitting the mitts with the trainer, and you get the cardio, you get the hit. Those gloves are about 16 ounces. So that's a pound each. And that just gets you moving. And now it may be something else for you. For you, it may be, running, or it may be playing basketball. Find what it is for you, but really, like I said, design your life with your style. And that style for you may be something that's different than me, but figure out what works and prioritize that. The world meets you at your standards. It doesn't meet you because you keep breaking your standards. Like, figure out what you want, put that in the calendar and say, every day, these hours, I'm doing this. And if I have patients, they can work around those hours, because I can tell you this, like, no one's going to give you permission to be like, okay, doc, you know what? You can work out today. Or guess what? Yeah, that's fine. Thursday's work. No, put it in there. The world will bend to your desires, but you have to have confidence in creating those desires and making them happen and sticking to them and showing dedication to your dreams. That's important. That's
Mhm.
why we started with that. So
Yeah.
that's what it is for me.
Beautiful.
And I think it's different for everybody.
Yeah, but I love that, and asking yourself that one question, what's more important than taking care of yourself? Because we are our
Yeah.
greatest asset. And if we don't take care of ourselves, no one else can. And so think of yourself as your most important patient, your truest love, and focus there, because we know that when we fill our own cup, it overflows. So I think that's a fantastic way to look at
I think you
taking
do a
care of
great job of
ourselves.
it, Brett, too. You always teach wellness and mindfulness and the breath and yoga nidra. I mean, you do so much of that stuff. So
Oh yeah.
it's inspiring.
Absolutely. And it's all been documented here in On the Cusp. And so if you're interested in this line of conversation, we've got lots of content on that. So okay, so we're dreaming big. We're focusing our energy, finding that time to design life around our style, which means if you like working out in the afternoon, if there's certain things you like to eat, taking the time to prepare that, making sure it's available for you. So I love that. Okay, so we as clinicians in this audience, we recognize the importance of how we fuel ourselves, how we take care of ourselves. But what about how we market ourselves? Because I love your take on this. I think you have a powerful message in regards to how we need to think about ourselves, not even just from a practice standpoint, but us as a clinician. Can you talk a bit about what marketing and self-promotion look like as we enter into a new phase?
Yeah, 100%. I think marketing has evolved so much, but if you really want to simplify, which is what you should be doing, look at marketing and look at yourself with this one phrase: I am a media company. Say, I'm a media company. So if you're a clinician, if you're an associate, you're an owner, if you are in the service industry, or you're selling a product, or you're part of a company that has products or services, notice how I put everybody in there.
Yeah.
You're a media company. You're a media company. What does that mean? Well, you have to understand there's 3 rules to buying. Customers or patients have 3 rules to buying anything. And then they have 3 rules for receiving any sort of media or advertisement. So I'm going to go over the 3 for buying and then 3 for how they process your advertisements or your marketing. So simply stated, the 3 rules for buying. What are they? And once you understand these 3 rules, everything makes sense. Your chairside exam makes sense. How you approach patients makes sense. Your follow-up with patients makes sense. Your follow-up with any sort of customer in any field makes sense when you understand these 3 things that I'm going to go over with you. And the first one is this: people buy what's in front of them. They don't always buy the best. That's why there's McDonald's, right? And people eat that, but it's in front of people. So people buy what's in front of them. They don't always buy the best. They buy what's in front of them. So what does that mean? Your job and your role as a clinician, a business owner, an associate, as anyone that's delivering products, services, or programs to anybody, is staying in front of your potential customer, your patient, your buyer, staying in front of them. And it's kind of, the research says you need at least 15 to 20 touch points or contact points. Most practices have what? 2 touch points. The recall exam, or 4 or every 3 months they do the peri-maintenance, whatever it is. But 15, it's hard to have people in your office 15 times a year. It's not going to happen. So how do you do it? You do it through this. You do it through media. The media that you have in your pocket, sending out valuable video content, before and after pictures, cases that are similar to the patients that you've seen. Thinking of a patient, say, hey, John, I thought of you because we had a patient come in. They had a similar situation. Here's how it turned out. You consistently producing media around the topics that matter to your patients. So people buy what's in front of them. They don't always buy the best, but they buy what's in front of them. Second rule of buying: not only do they buy what's in front of them, you have to understand, people buy when they feel understood, not so much when they understand you. So when they feel understood, Dr. Gilbert gets me. She understands me. He gets me. When they feel understood, that's when they buy. And us as clinicians, we try to have our patients understand us. This is the treatment you need. Here's why we're doing the crown. This is why it's a deep cleaning and not a basic cleaning. We're always trying to better describe our perspective, when you have to really just walk into their mind, step into their narrative, what's happening in their mind. People buy when they feel understood, not so much when they understand you, which means you have to use the phrases that they use. If a patient says to you, hey, you know what? My tooth hurts when I chew sourdough, but it doesn't hurt when I eat ice cream. And if your next response to that is, well, if you're having pain in the tooth, you probably need a root canal or a crown because it could be cracked. And that's very normal for any dentist to say. The better response is to use the exact wording that your patients just used, rephrase that, and then tap into their mindset. It could be something like, I totally get it. It feels sensitive when you chew sourdough, but when you have like cold ice cream, it seems like it's fine. Would you say that's about right? You're asking the question. You're layering that in, and they're like, oh yeah. So you're describing in their words what they just told you. They're going to feel more understood. You're not saying or explicitly delivering a statement. Instead, you're asking a question, and there's a difference between a question and a statement. Realize this: questions lead patients to trust us, whereas statements force them to trust you.
Interesting.
Now, if you're a patient, do you want to be forced to trust your doctor? Or would you rather be led to trust them? So you ask the right questions. Hey, does it hurt more if you eat this? Or does it hurt at these times of days? Or this time of the day? Does it hurt when you do a sit-up? Do you find that it's weird when you go up and down? You're asking the right questions, and that's leading them to explore and co-discover what you're talking about, and they build trust because you're asking the questions versus you telling them what they need. So this is all part of it, like we dive deeper, but essentially you're trying to make them feel understood. And a lot of this is wordplay, getting into their psychology, into their narrative. And if they feel understood, they're more likely to buy from you. Now, the third golden rule of buying. First one was people buy what's in front of them. Second one was people buy when they feel understood, not so much understand you. But the third one is they buy when there's a reason to buy now, or there's an incentive for them to buy now. That's why we always make a big focal point on creating packages, programs, bundles, offers, right? What's the reason to buy now? One of the best reasons and the easiest ones are low-hanging fruit, which is landmarks of the year, end of the year, beginning of the year, holidays, the summer, going back to school. What's the reason for them to take action now? Maybe it's a bundle or a package. Maybe it's Valentine's Day where you're actually doing teeth whitening for the couple, or any sort of package or bundle that you can put together, and you can add things in to deliver more value for that core treatment. If you're doing porcelain veneers, can you add in a night guard, or can you add in a teeth whitening? That's an ancillary treatment that brings more value to the core treatment. So now there's a reason to buy now. There's a reason to do that today. And if you phrase it like, hey, we're taking 5 patients to do this one treatment on in the next 30 days, now you've layered scarcity and urgency into that mix, and now it's even more fire. So people buy what's in front of them. People buy when they feel understood, and they buy when there's a reason to buy now. I think these are golden rules of why patients buy. Now, let's move forward. Think about this. Why do patients, how can they actually believe your advertising? What about your marketing must you 100% qualify so that way it checks the boxes? Like, okay, this is our marketing. These are the requirements or the demands every customer has from any marketing piece. Once you understand these demands or requirements that you have to check for any marketing piece, then marketing becomes effective. And this applies to posts, to social media, to content, anything. Number one, patients or customers or people watching your stuff that you're marketing to are always asking themselves, what is it? So you got to, what is it? How many times I see someone post something and it's talking about their iTero, and it's talking about clear aligners, and it's talking about braces, and the patient's like, is this about the technology? Is it about the clear aligners? Is it about straight teeth? They're confused. You up the confusion, you decrease the conversions, right? So what is it? You got to be clear, and you have to have the answer for that in your content. This is what it is. It's clear aligner treatment without impressions, digitally, no messy impressions, and it's no metal, right? So it's clearly telling them, what is it? Then they also have to answer for themselves as they see your marketing, is it for me? So what is it? Is it for me? And the third one is, can I do it? If patients feel like they have to come into your office every single week for treatment, they're like, dude, I can't do that. Peace out. This is not for me. So if you got 2 to 3, no conversion, no case starts. But if they know what it is and they know that they can do it, but they're like, I don't want clear aligners. I want this. And they know it's not for them, no game. You got to hit all 3. What is it? Is it for me? Can I do it? Every post, every piece of marketing, every message you put out into the ecosystem has to have clarity with those 3 requirements or demands. So those are the 3 rules for anyone to have more effective marketing pieces in the ecosystem. So if you're marketing anything, what is it? Is it for me? Can I do it? A patient must have an answer to all those things. And then, of course, you got the golden rules of buying. So if you put all that together and you're like, gosh, I'm not just a clinician, I'm not just a dentist, I'm not just an owner or an associate, I'm a media company, and this is how I'm going to market. I have to get the rules for buying and selling and the rules for my marketing. Once you get that down, everything else is details that you can work into. But I would start there. And I think the biggest shift I see today is dentists not thinking that they're media companies. They think that they're clinicians. And that's just brainwashing from school, because school has overly indexed you to be a chairside doer. And if you've been on any of our sessions, I always talk about the value of moving from doer to director. Who makes more money? The directors or the actors of the movie? It's always the directors. I'm telling you, they make the back end money. So most clinicians are doers. They're chairside. And that's great. There's a season for that. But you got to move from doer to director. And director means you're orchestrating. You're putting an associate in play. You have a team that can help you do this. You got others that can do this. And you can kind of pick exactly the cases you want to do, and the other cases you direct, right? So you got to move from doer to director. And a lot of the stuff we're talking about, Brett, it's all identity or mindset shifts into, gosh, I need to be the person that thinks of myself as a media company. I need to be the person that thinks of myself as a director, not a doer dentist. So when you get these shifts down, you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense. And that's when you have the unlock. That's when you have the breakthrough.
That's beautiful. And that's exactly what's so important about this type of episode is, Rinesh has had a chance to process what's happening and look at it differently, because he's not at the chair as a clinician any longer. And so he's got this great perspective. And I love the simpleness of the rules. I love that it sort of creates a blueprint for us to walk through. But I think also it's important to remember that none of us learned this in school. So it's not like, this is still the wild, wild west when it comes to a dentist being a media company, but this is where we are. And what I also want to throw in there on top of, understanding those rules is be authentic, be you. Who we are authentically is our superpower. So if you can put your authentic self and your passion and your love into this type of blueprint, I think you can really have more success with conversion. So I'm taking notes. I love this. I mean, this is everything. And most importantly, what I walk away with is how important it is to clearly define what is it? Because I think a lot of us, we have such a clear vision of what we're offering, but the inability to actually articulate that is what throws people off. So I really appreciate that. And so that's great. So, I mean, marketing is everything in this day and age. There's so many different mediums to do it. And so we have to look at ourselves, as you said, from an identity standpoint as a media company. So with that, let's move into the next bucket that I'm super curious about, because this is a man who has his car come pick him up at the curb. And, he's very, very, what we talked about in the first episode was really mind blowing in terms of technology and what's coming. So Rinesh, what's at the top of your mind, the top of your interest with technology and development now?
Yeah, Brett. I mean, obviously, I certainly don't know all the rabbit holes to go down with this, but because there's so much that's changing. but I try to find the signal amidst the noise, right? The needle in the haystack. So it's like, if you think about the world today, what's happening? Well, AI, that's a term that everyone now talks about. You hear it daily. Automation, you hear that daily. And if you're a clinician, most of your time is spent working chairside. And as much of a blessing as that is for your patients, part of the challenge with that is that you are removed from the advances of the world. Like, you can literally work on patients, generate a great revenue, an income stream, and not know how to do any of the tech stuff here. But the problem with that is this: if you're going to do that siloed approach, then you're not going to have the ability to see where the puck is going, right? You're just here and you're not seeing where the future is trending to. Nobody can tell the future, but if you look at some of the technologies right now, we're only going to go through a handful of these, but what's happening? Like, if you look at one company, and I'll give you some resources. I mentioned this on our last session earlier in the year. Let's talk about Tesla. I mean, Tesla is the biggest AI company on earth. Now, people think, oh, they're not NVIDIA. Well, they don't make they use what NVIDIA has, and they actually put it to practical, action in the world. So they have the cars, which are pretty much robots on wheels. They have the battery pack business, which pretty much can power companies and eventually cities, right? Their battery packs. They have Starlink, which can give the internet or Wi-Fi to entire cities and nations. And they could do it at such a fraction of the cost. They are launching space shuttles, rockets, and they're catching the booster rocket back onto Earth. They're catching it and they're receiving it so that they can recycle it and use it again. That's never happened again. That's never happened before. So they're not only doing that, they got the battery packs, they got solar. They also have full self-driving in their cars. I don't know, those of you that have a Tesla, the number one thing you should pay for is buy the subscription. Right now, at the time of this podcast, it's $99 a month. And you get inaugurated into the ecosystem. You see how this thing is working, and it's alive. They have what we call inference AI. Inference AI is different than somebody sitting there and writing code. Inference AI is that car having all those cameras is getting all this feedback. It's getting the data. No one's writing code. It's receiving the video footage as you're driving, and millions of other cars are driving. It is inferring from that footage the decisions to make, how to grow, how to get smarter. It's inference AI. I'm simplifying it, but this is the gist of it. It's inferring from that footage how to self-learn. And now it's improving its intelligence based on the video footage, not the code. The video footage it gets back. And now it's making decisions on the fly, and it's upgrading, and there's over-the-air software updates. So learn this stuff. It's not just about driving a car or picking your next car, whether it's an Audi or Mercedes. The reason why you learn about Tesla is AI. That's why you get into that. That's why you immerse yourself in that ecosystem. And there are like 14 different startups in there. They got an insurance company. They got solar. They got Starlink. They're doing robo-taxis now, right? So those are going to come out. They got Optimus coming out. Each and every one of you, not long from now, is going to have the option of having an Optimus robot in your office that will sterilize your equipment, that will clean your handpieces, that will take your Explorer and put it into the Statum. It'll sterilize it. It'll set up your room. It'll take down your room. And those of you that are frustrated with some of those staff members that you don't like, I'm not trying to say we're going to outsource humans, but roles and jobs are going to be outsourced to robots and humans that know how to use robots to improve their situation and the situation of customers as well, right? Wow. So we got to learn how to work with these technologies. So Tesla has that. Optimus is coming, and it's going to be the same AI that's in there that's in the cars. So think of that. If you can have a robot in your office for $20,000 a year, $20,000 one-time fee, and it can constantly learn, like that's a no-brainer. So
Wow.
all this stuff is happening. That's on the AI front. That's on the transportation front. And transportation affects everything, because now if you can get in your car and it drives itself, which is already happening. Yes, right now at the time of this podcast, it's supervised. I literally can go to LA from Orange County and not have to move the steering wheel, not even have to touch it, and it'll drive me there. Safer. I think it's 11 times safer than a human. It'll drive me there and back, and I don't even have to touch the wheel now. I can have my hands like this. It'll exit, it'll stop, it'll do all, and it'll park. It can do that. If it can do that, like that's something to note. That's like saying, wow, cars started flying. Like this is huge right now. So study that stuff. I'm going to give you a resource to do that as well. Next thing, we got all that AI stuff happening. And look, I just gave you one company. Get into that. I think the best way to get into it is to buy the product. But if you're not going to buy the product, watch the videos online. But when you do buy the product, let's say you purchase or lease the Tesla, you get to experience the ecosystem. You're like, oh my God, I see what's happening. It's not a car. It's not just an EV company. There's so many layers to us. And what's happening on the other side? Well, in the world of finance, we talked about this last time. We're having a huge financial value restructuring. Well, the US dollar has been losing and being debased for decades. Ever since it got off the gold standard, the dollar's been losing value, has been inflated. They can print more of it. It's not a hard form of money. You've heard a lot of what's happening with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the hardest form of money with a limited supply. It's transportable. If I had a bar of gold, I can't take it to Africa on a plane with me, but I can take whatever amount of money I want on the plane to any country through Bitcoin. It's the hardest form of money, has a limited supply, and it's mined, but that mining ability takes energy. So now it takes energy to mine it, and it is deflationary because every 4 years, less of it comes out. Less Bitcoin comes out into the ecosystem, and less of it can be mined. So it's the hardest form of money, and it can be exchanged between people within minutes. If you want to send money to somebody on a Sunday that's out of the country, try doing that. It's not easy. But if you have it on these blockchain rails, and if you're using a hard form of money like Bitcoin, it's very easy to do. So study what's happening, because this is happening. It was just last year, I told my mastermind, I was like, you know what you guys should do? You should take payment for your Invisalign cases in BTC. Do a handful of your cases and take payment in Bitcoin. And at that time, Bitcoin was around, I think, 30, 40,000. At the time of this podcast, we're sitting at about over 100 grand a coin. Now, you can buy fractional elements of it. You don't have to buy the full thing. But the reason I'm pointing this out is that this is the world today. This is value. It's a store of that value. It's a store of energy and value. And where better to keep your monetary value than an asset that does not debase, that no one controls, that no one can debase it, that's never been hacked. The blockchain has never been hacked, right? The Bitcoin blockchain. And it's not controlled by any one single individual, and it's decentralized. Now, where do you learn all this stuff? There's a couple good resources. I like to follow, there's a guy on YouTube, his name, the channel is called Invest Answers. Phenomenal channel, Invest Answers. It goes over some of the top technologies, and it's a great channel. Learn from there. There is also a book on Bitcoin called The Bitcoin Standard. Read that, get conviction, understand what it is, and learn from there. And any of these technologies, whether it's autonomous driving, AI, Bitcoin, the entire cryptocurrency industry, you have to build conviction. Like somebody can't just tell you, hey, this is what's happening. You don't just believe people because you hear it. You believe it because you are exposed to it multiple times. You build conviction because you educate yourself on this. And then that conviction leads to confidence. You're like, okay, I see what's happening. You build that conviction. So I would encourage everybody, check out that YouTube channel called Invest Answers. There's a bunch of YouTube channels on there, on just in general on YouTube, but you got to find the right mentors. That's a good one. Read the Bitcoin Standard. That's a good one. If you focus on those two technologies, AI and the revolution that we're seeing with the financial restructuring of things around the entire globe, where people or companies are putting a lot of their treasuries right now are going to be buying Bitcoin. Think of that.
Wow.
You don't want to be sleeping through this revolution as we move forward. You don't want to be sleeping through it. It's important to be working alongside and helping patients, but it's also important to be leaning towards where the future is trending, right?
Wow.
Very important. So those are just two takeaways, a couple
Love it.
resources. I think that's going to be very helpful. There's a lot of stuff to study and research there.
Amazing. And I know you're just scratching the surface with your
Yeah,
knowledge
man.
level, but that's super enlightening and really a great advancement over what we had discussed in the first episode. So fantastic. So just like you said, so you're a clinician, you're an owner, you're an associate, it's time to look, maybe away from the chair a minute, what's happening in technology. And in the same front, Rinesh, when it comes to entrepreneurship, because we as clinicians, for the most part, we are entrepreneurs in many different ways, but when we talk about fulfillment in life and we talk about the burdens of clinical life, and like you said, you're at the chair and you're focused on what you're doing, but you are kind of missing everything else that's happening around in the world. So as a dentist who stepped out of clinical practice into the vision of what you saw for business, for generating income for your family, but also really serving and helping people, how would you sort of advise a clinician to take that first step, whether it's a project like writing a book or starting a podcast or creating some type of course or even going out and starting to lecture or whatever it looks like in your mind? What would be your bit of advice for someone to make those first few steps?
First few steps as in, like, what would you do to like branch out of your current situation? Is that what you're
Yeah, like
asking?
you have an idea. It is like we talked about, you don't want to get too comfortable, right? So
Yeah,
stepping out of your comfort zone is how we grow. So
yeah,
for someone who's just got the seed of an idea but hasn't quite acted on it, I can relate because I felt that way for so many years before I
yeah.
started to actually manifest my visions. What would be your advice just for someone to say, "Hey, do this and this will be a great way to start making that first step"?
Man, I think this. Great things start small, right? Like I write it down on a whiteboard, write it down on a piece of paper. People are afraid of starting small and being seen small, right? Like, oh, what are my friends going to think? Or I have this great job here, or I'm making good money doing this, or I'm this person. I have this identity, right? Identities are huge. Like doctors, it's like even like dentists, doctors. Ooh, we're Dr. So and so.
Mhm.
You got to relinquish the need to be identified with your identity, right? Like you got to first be like, for me to be ever growing and open to possibility in my life, I have to remove this need to identify with one thing in my life. Who said that we have to do the same thing over and over for decades in our life? Do you want your life to be richer, more magical, more spontaneous, more adventurous? Gosh, comes back to what I said earlier, dream bigger, but also sever that identity of who you are right now and say, hey, I want to do this. So for me, I was like, okay, I'm cool moving away with doctor, first name, last name. I feel like I, contributed there and I want to do this other stuff. I want to be able to help and mentor, teach, train, coach. And that's what we are able to do through dental practice mastery. And I love that. And it's like, doesn't matter who I am. Nobody cares who you or I is. They don't care about that. Everybody cares about what's in it for me. What
Mhm.
can I get out of this? Comes back to those rules. What is it for me? What is it? Is it for me? And can I do it? If I can deliver something from my idea that's going to help the customer, then it's a win. Then it's a win. And I always think that, you got to have a vision around this. You know, I have this framework I'm going to share with you. It's called the 4Ps framework. And if you have an idea or a thing that you want to do, I would run it through this framework. It is so powerful. And it's the framework that I've used to grow dental practice mastery and my practices before. And I would say even more so DPM. And I run everything through this. If you have an idea, right? You think about the first, if you draw like a box and then you put a cross through it and there's 4 quadrants, right? Upper left, upper right, lower left, lower right. The first quadrant, the first P is purpose or passion. So we start off with passion or purpose. It's something that you're passionate about. And if you're like, Rinesh, I'm not really passionate about anything, then ask yourself, what do you spend most of your time consuming? What type of content do you consume? What do you scroll at? What stops you and has you reading? What is it? And that may be a sign of what you're into. So let's just call that right now your passion. It doesn't have to be your purpose, but just get some clarity around what are those things that kind of attract you naturally and organically. So you take that energy, passion, purpose, whatever it is the first P, and you apply it to a problem in the marketplace. Because people don't pay for services or more information. They pay to get their problem solved. So you take that passion, you apply it to the problem in the marketplace. That's the second quadrant. So you got the first quadrant, second quadrant. That's a problem. So if you write notes, passion or purpose, and then problem is the second quadrant. You figure out what the problem is for one person. What are they struggling with here? You're like, okay, this is great. They're struggling with this. How can I help them? For endodontists, well, you know it's pain. You're not trying to treat 50 people at once. It's pain. For most clinicians, it's like, God, they're concerned about their crooked teeth, or they don't like their smile, or they need new dental work done. There's a singular problem for one person. Don't focus on trying to heal an industry, a marketplace, or a demographic. We'll get there, but start with that one person. That's the problem. Now, what you do with that problem is the third P is your perspective. You take your perspective, which is your solution. As a clinician, it could be your clear aligner solution, your porcelain veneer solution, your endodontic solution. Everybody has a different way of providing a solution. That's your perspective. You apply that perspective to the problem, and that's what yields a profit. If you can help solve someone's problem with your perspective, that's the fourth P, is profit. Passion or purpose applied to a problem in the marketplace for one person with your perspective, that's your solution that solves that problem, that yields a profit. Now, you do this for one individual, and then you think, wow, I helped this one person. God, I can help this entire group of people. Like, man, I help my community. Then I can help this entire demographic of people. It goes beyond the community. And then it goes even bigger, like maybe someone like an Elon. He's like, I can help an entire nation or the world. So it expands, and the bigger problems that you solve, the more you get paid. Mm-hmm. So you start with a single person. You don't start with attacking a whole marketplace. How can I help that person? Okay, that worked. How can I help that group? Okay, that worked. How can I help that demographic? And using your perspective, like Brett, you've been doing with Access Endo, that's your perspective. That's your curriculum. That's like what you created through your decades of experience with doing endo. And you're like, I have this entire formula to help train somebody that does not do any endo to doing cases consistently, predictably, every single month. And we've seen it in Access Endo. Like they go through your curriculum, that's your perspective. It solves a problem for that one clinician. And now you do it for a group, and now you've done it for an entire demographic in the industry. So you've scaled that out incredibly. So passion, problem, perspective, profit. So I would urge you to think about it from that type of vision as you move towards, hey, I want to do something to get out of this, or I want to do something different. What's the problem? What am I solving? Start there. Take the small step. Be okay with starting from zero. I mean, that's the 4P formula, and that's what I've used. And I think that is just 4 steps.
I love that.
That gets you there.
I love it, man. It's so simple. And what I love about it is, yes, the profit's always going to be nice, but not a guarantee, right? But a problem can be obvious to you. What I love most about it is the passion, right? And the perspective, meaning be confident in that what you have to offer, what's calling. You know, we have this little idea in the head, and I believe ideas land on you. And if you act on them, they're yours. Oof. And if you stutter, if you don't do it, if you pause, if you wait, if you procrastinate, it flies off and lands on someone else. And
Oh,
so,
so
being
good.
able to take this concept of number one, solving a problem, that's what we do, and putting your passion, your perspective behind it. And in your wins, not all of them will win, and that's okay, because stepping out of your comfort zone to even try is the win. And the profit part is the nice reward. So beautiful, Rinesh. I love it. I appreciate it because you're really, to me, a wonderful example of someone who truly acted upon that calling and said, and I know, you told the story before many a time, but you told your dad one night, you said, I'm either going to succeed in what I'm envisioning or I'm going to die.
It's a great memory. Yeah,
That's it.
it's so
Like there's
true,
no
man. That's
there's no in between. So that type of conviction puts a lot of energy, spirit, and when you take your passion and you see the problem and you apply your perspective, then when those things come together magically, a beautiful profit could be at the end of it. And that profit might be money, it might be fulfillment, it might be just the idea that you taught someone, or
maybe more
maybe
time with your family.
exactly. Exactly. So beautiful. I love it. And, just for the sake of time, I want to move into the last bucket here, which I think is equally as important. And you've already sort of covered vision so beautifully in this session, but let's talk about impact, because that's something I think is often the impetus for us becoming clinicians. We do it at a young age. We don't always know what we're getting into, but we know we want to help people. We know we want to contribute good to the world. We know we want to apply our gifts to help heal someone else. And that is a micro level of impact, in my opinion, as a clinician. I think there's other levels. Can you talk a little bit about how you might advise someone you're mentoring to say, hey, I see that you want to show up big in the world. You want to make a difference. What's a way that you would move forward and advise someone? Again, and what I love about this conversation is we're talking about just first steps. We're
Yeah,
talking about you dip your toe first, you like how it feels, you're going to put more in.
yeah.
And so what does that look like from your perspective?
You know, the question, I guess, is how can you make more of an impact in the world? And I think the simple answer is it's two parts of this, but it's simple. And it's you start learning something, right? That's the start of everything. You learn it. You go from being green, you don't know how to tie your shoe, you learn how to tie your shoe. You learn the thing, the trade, the art, whatever it is. And then you start to master it. Like no one's ever perfect. They're always mastering. It's a path of mastery. And you're learning it, and then you do it. You implement it. You implement it. And most clinicians, most people stay at those two phases where they learn it and then they implement it, right? And that you could be incredibly successful with those two type of segments, right? Learning it, implementing it, because you're mastering it and you're kind of just keep doing it and you're helping people with it. But there's a third phase, which I feel like is the unlock, and it's teaching it. And it's showing others how to get the results that you got or the results that they can get because of what you know, right? And that's how the world moves forward. And that's kind of how, like, that's why I feel so aligned with what we get to do at DPM, Dental Practice Mastery, with our mentors, because these are individuals like yourself who have done it, who are doing it, path of mastery. Always, you're like, man, I'm trying all these different things, and they're teaching it. These are special people, not because they were born special, but because they made the decision to actually have more of an impact beyond their hands, right? And whether you're doing a mind business or a hand business like dentistry, which is kind of both, right? But to have an impact beyond your hands means you pay it forward and you teach. You show someone how to do it. So I think that's number one. Show somebody how to do the thing you're doing. That's so important. Mentorship is everything, right? And that is the biggest blessing. You want to shorten decades into like moments of insight. Oh, that's the breakthrough. You take someone that's been doing something for decades or years, and then you learn from them and you have this insight. That's a breakthrough. That's a breakthrough. And people they don't want improvements in life. They want breakthroughs. And that's the best, most predictable way to get a breakthrough in your life, is to learn from someone who's done it, who's doing it, and who can teach it. 3 parts of that. So be the person that can teach it. And here's the other thing. I was reading this book, The Science of Skill Acquisition. It's talking about the best way to learn something is not to do it. That's a great way, but a better way is to, after you do it, is to teach it. So when you
Mm.
teach it, oh my God, you get better at it. And I'm sure you've noticed it,
Oh
Brett, too.
yeah.
Like
Oh yeah.
you've gotten even better. And it's like this added surprise that you never, oh my God, I'm teaching it. Wow, the boomerang comes back to you in spades. So I think that's huge.
Yeah.
Now, there's one other part to this, which is very important. Every clinician, everybody in a service industry or any business anybody that's working, you have to understand that there's 3 parts to all this. When you said vision, impact, and you have to get through all these steps. The first step is everybody's trading time for money. And everybody starts there. So if you're an associate, even if you're a business owner, sometimes you're trading time for money, right? Time for money. Then you evolve to trade money for time. Like I can put money onto this. I can buy, some help, some resources. Maybe I can get an associate. I can buy a technology piece that will help me do this faster. So you're putting money in to gain more time. I'm not at the office because I have the associate. I don't have to do the cleaning because I have the hygienist. I have this other office that's run by this. Money, you're trading for time. The third thing is this. You're going from time for money, money for time. And the biggest unlock, because as an employee, you trade time for money. As an entrepreneur, you trade money for time. But as a wealth builder, you're trading money for money. So now your money's being used to generate more resources that enables you to free up more of your time, because time is the ultimate resource. And you can pour into areas of your business that you really love, areas of your life that you really love, areas of your relationship that you really love, because now you have more time. You're buying back your time. And I want to share another resource. There's a great book on all this, and I'm referencing everything I'm telling you here in regards to the time for money, money for time, and money for money, by a guy by the name of Dan Martell. He wrote this book. It's an amazing book. It's called Buy Back Your Time. Everyone listening should literally go to Amazon and get this book called Buy Back Your Time, Buying Back Your Time by Dan Martell. It's a blue book. And man, this book is the unlock to entrepreneurship and wealth building, because he talks about how you shouldn't just hire to grow your business. You should hire to buy back your time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, mic drop. Like, how many of us think of it that way? We always think about it like, oh, I got to hire so I can grow my business so I can make more money. I got people doing these things. But really, the ultimate flex, the ultimate win, the ultimate resource is to buy back your time. So you hire to grow, not the business, but you hire to buy back your time.
Yeah.
And Dan goes over this really well in Buying Back Your Time, and you all should read it. So you have to have that vision to be able to do this thing too, because it's all kind of connected. Because you're not going to have the mental space to say, hey, I want to pay it forward and teach and help others if you're constantly the doer.
Yeah.
And you haven't moved to director mode. So you kind of have to do that, right? Doer to director, buy back your time, pay it forward, help others, and then a rising tide lifts all boats.
Brilliant. Brilliant, man. I love it. Rinesh, you're so inspiring, and you have such a wealth of information. And the one thing I would add to this is, many people are out there and they hear this and like, well, it's like an immediate, like, well, I could never do that. Or my idea isn't that good, or no one's going to buy my book. And the key thing that I want you to walk away with from this episode is that's not true. That's a self-limiting belief that you're capping yourself to protect yourself from this concept of failing. And what I can tell you is that I know, because I was stuck in that until I was 43 years old. And it was emotional intelligence training that let me see my self-limiting beliefs and realize that those are all self-imposed. And once you get out of your own way, you realize that actually that authentic gift of who you are is the gift, is the superpower, is what you need. And you already have it. And so that's one of the reasons, Rinesh, I was sharing with you, I'm launching a emotional intelligence training program for clinicians called Heal Thyself. And so
Mm.
that's something that I'll be talking about a lot more. But the idea is, by healing yourself, by getting yourself to heal your traumas, get out of your own way, instead of the thoughts being, I can't, that's not me, I'll always be trading my time for money. It goes back to the first thing Rinesh said, which is dream bigger, dream big, be ready to go for it. And then what I loved about what you said is, if you don't know what your purpose is, just look at what you're consuming. What are you looking at? What is interesting you? Because you may actually find that your passion is actually right there in your heart, but there's a blind spot around you where you can't see it. So, Dr. Rinesh Ganatra, just so brilliant, man. So grateful for you as a friend, number one,
Oh,
as a business partner, as a coach and confidant, and to see what you're building and the way that you're able to speak to people. And like you said, it's not about them knowing you, it's about you understanding their position. And I
yeah,
think you do that really brilliantly. So I'm so grateful to have you back for the second episode. I'm sure you're going to be a regular guest because we're so
I'd be
entwined and you
honored.
have so much
Yeah.
brilliance to share. But I really wanted to hit these 5 buckets because I think that if we can get our community and those that are maybe feeling a little under it, depressed, maybe overwhelmed with the burdens and the stress, I think this episode allows you to sort of rise above, like the plane coming up above the clouds. And
Mm,
now you see it's actually pretty
yeah.
sunny all around.
Yeah.
And you just have to put yourself in a position to get those rays. And I think your infectious personality and your inspiration today, Rinesh, is going to really help to get a lot of our listeners moving in that direction. I saw an interesting thing recently. It said, what do you think is more powerful, positive thinking or less negative thinking? Right? You know the
So good.
answer, right?
Yeah.
You would
Amazing.
think it would be positive thinking, but it's really less negative thinking.
Yeah.
So let's dream big. Let's break
So
through.
good.
Like you said, let's think positive, but really cut those negative thoughts out. And when you think something negative about yourself, remind yourself how far you've come, how much you've accomplished. And when you look at where you've come from, you realize that what you're doing today was what you dreamed of.
Oh,
So dream some more, and there'll be a day in the future where you'll be right there. So
so good, man.
dentalpracticemastery.com, Rinesh offers incredible courses, his own mentorships, masterminds, as he mentioned, incredible faculty, of which I'm one. So we'll have all that linked up in the show notes. Any closing remarks, Rinesh, as we close out this second session together?
First of all, thank you for all the good words, and it's been an honor to be here. You have been an inspiration. Starting off in my career, like you were working in GP5 right above me as a specialist, and I was the dental student that didn't know right from left, and you'd come down and coach us. So it's amazing now that you're coaching entire communities and audiences. So it's been cool to see you go through this journey and just be a part of it. So I'm super grateful for that, and
Thank
including
you.
me here in your podcast. It's just done so well. I want to add something to this because you said purpose, and if you're stuck right now and you're listening to all this, you're like, man, okay, you guys seem like, okay, nobody has it all figured out. Nobody's perfect. Everybody slips. Everybody, everybody's not exactly who you listen to on these platforms, right? Because we're human, right? We have our human flaws. And sometimes the stuff we speak about is also the stuff that we need to medicate about. You're like, oh my God, I'm speaking about this because I struggled with that stuff, right?
Exactly.
You're speaking about this because you've struggled with that and you've gone through that journey. So realize that we're not any different. We've just kind of upheld some belief and faith that, hey, we can work through this, and we've gotten some traction, and we're like, wow, we got these results, and we just want to help you. We want to share that with you. And in saying that, realize this: if you're stuck, the best thing you can do right now is start moving. I'm not talking about exercise, even though that's helpful, but I'm talking about have some sort of movement forward towards what you want to do. And you don't have to know your purpose or your passion. Just get moving, because I think movement creates meaning, and meaning either fires up passion, and sometimes passion can uncover purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So sometimes you don't even know what your purpose is, and you start moving, you get with it, you'll get the feedback, you're in the marketplace, you're selling your first product, or you're starting your first case that you just learned how to place implants, and you do your first case and you do it for free. Who cares? You got the reps in. So many of us wait there and we're stuck because we don't got the reps. We're not doing the reps. Get the reps in, get moving. And as you get moving, you'll find meaning. And as you find meaning, it could ignite your passion. And if it ignites your passion, I guarantee you somewhere in those layers, your purpose is going to be looking at you. But it's not going to happen until you move. So that's hopefully my parting thought here. And hopefully that gives you some sort of an unlock to moving ahead.
Powerful words of wisdom by Dr. Rinesh Ganatra, man. Just love you, brother. So grateful for your time, for your expertise, your love and passion. And I know our audience is going to really appreciate this episode, much like they did the first. So more to come. But in the meantime, as we're approaching this new chapter, new year, just want to let everyone know that if we can be of service to you in any way, please let us know. The idea here is to build a community, one of leaders that can rely on each other. And if you're just getting started in your career, looking at the journeys of others is a fantastic way to sort of figure out your own footing and know that we've slipped, we've fallen. But as Rinesh said, taking decades and compressing it down into learning over a couple days, it's great to have mentors. Mentors are a great way to avoid pitfalls. So thank you so much, Rinesh. Wishing you a beautiful rest of your day with your family and all the things you have going on. And I can't wait for the next episode.
Thanks, Brett. I look forward to doing it with you again, and appreciate you, and much love to you and everything you're doing and all the people that you're impacting, and grateful to be part of this journey as well. So thanks, guys. And like we always say, live inspired. I hope this one helps move you to the next level.